Close your eyes and journey back to a dimly lit wood-paneled room in 1974. The air is thick with the scent of expensive tobacco and the silent weight of a world in transition. Across a heavy oak table, two men are leaning in. One is Henry Kissinger, the architect of American foreign policy. The others are the emissaries of the House of Saud. The world was still reeling from the Nixon shock of 1971, the moment we discussed in previous investigations when the dollar was stripped of its gold backing. The American currency was adrift, a fiat ghost with no anchor. But in that room in 1974, a new anchor was forged. It was a secret, a pact that would define the next 50 years of American life. The deal was simple. The United States would provide the Saudi kingdom with military protection, high-tech hardware, and a guarantee of security. In exchange, the Saudis, and eventually the entire OPEC cartel, would agree to price their oil exclusively in U.S. dollars. This was the birth of the petrodollar. It was the economic archaeology of the modern American miracle. Suddenly, the dollar was no longer just a piece of paper. It was a global gas card. Every nation on Earth, from Japan to Germany, was forced to hoard U.S. dollars, not because they trusted our government, but because they needed our currency to keep their lights on and their factories running. This secret pact gave the United States a superpower subsidy. It allowed us to print infinite money to fund our deficits, our wars, and our social programs, because the rest of the world acted as a giant vacuum, sucking up those dollars to buy the energy they needed to survive. But as we look at the escalating tensions in the Middle East today, the drones over the Persian Gulf and the warships in the Red Sea, we must realize that this 50-year shield is about to shatter. To understand why a war in the Middle East isn't just a military conflict, but a financial death sentence for the dollar, we have to look beneath the headlines.
For the generation that came of age in the 1970s and 80s, the petrodollar was the invisible wind beneath our wings. It was the reason we could enjoy a standard of living that was the envy of human history, despite our declining manufacturing base. Because the world was forced to use our dollars, the value of our currency stayed artificially high. This made everything we imported, from the electronics in our living rooms to the clothes on our backs, incredibly cheap. We were living on a global credit card that never seemed to come due. We didn't have to make anything to be wealthy. We just had to export our inflation to the rest of the world. As long as oil was priced in dollars, the system was stable. This was the fixed anchor of the American middle class. It allowed us to build the suburbs, fund our 401ks, and believe in the permanence of our prosperity. But as economic archaeologists, we see that this prosperity was built on a regulatory wall. We used our military might to ensure that no one challenged the petrodollar. We saw what happened in Iraq when Saddam Hussein tried to sell oil in euros. We saw what happened in Libya when Gaddafi proposed a gold-backed African currency. The system defended itself with iron and fire. But today, the wall is crumbling. The 50-plus demographic in America intuitively feels that the rules of the game are changing. We see our traditional allies in the Middle East making deals with China. We see the rise of the BRICS nations. The secret pact in 1974 is being rewritten in real time, and a war in the Middle East is the final catalyst that will turn the global gas card into a useless piece of plastic.
The archaeology of the current tension takes us to a narrow strip of water known as the Strait of Hormuz. It is the most important financial nerve center on the planet. 1/5 of the world's daily oil consumption passes through this tiny choke point. To a 50-plus American watching the news, this might look like a tactical problem. To an economic analyst, it is the kill switch for the American lifestyle. If war breaks out between the United States and Iran, the first thing to die won't be a soldier, it will be the flow of energy. Iran has spent decades preparing for this exact moment. They don't need to win a naval battle, they only need to sink a few tankers or sow a few mines to shut down the strait. When the oil stops flowing, the math of the petrodollar collapses. If the world can no longer rely on the Middle East for a steady supply of dollar-priced oil, they will stop holding dollars. It is a simple, brutal logic. Why would a country like India or Brazil hold trillions in U.S. Treasury bonds if those bonds can no longer buy the energy their people need to eat and work? This is the great de-dollarization. A war in the Middle East provides the perfect cover for the rest of the world to dump their dollars and move toward a multipolar financial system. They are tired of subsidizing the American debt. They are tired of the petrodollar heist. War isn't just about territory. It is the excuse the world has been waiting for to stop using our currency as the global reserve. And when those trillions of exiled dollars come flooding back to American shores, the economic archaeology of our domestic life will be rewritten in a single afternoon.
Now we must look at the physical reality of this shift. What happens when the world no longer wants our global gas card? For 50 years, our inflation has been exiled. We printed the money and the rest of the world held it. But if a Middle East war triggers a global rejection of the dollar, those dollars have nowhere else to go but home. This is the inflationary tsunami. Imagine every dollar ever printed in the last 20 years suddenly competing for the same loaf of bread at your local grocery store. Imagine the $20 grocery cart we investigated previously turning into a $200 grocery cart overnight. This isn't a supply chain issue. This is the death of purchasing power. For the retiree on a fixed income, this is the ultimate betrayal. Your paper wealth, your 401k, your IRA, your pension, is denominated in these very dollars. If the dollar loses its global status, your $1,000,000 nest egg might buy you a week's worth of gas and a few bags of groceries. We are seeing the simulation of wealth meet the reality of war. The mainstream media tells you that war is about democracy or defense, but as Golden Age thinkers, we see that war is the clearinghouse for debt. When a government can no longer pay its bills, it finds a war to blame for the collapse of its currency. They want you to believe that Iran destroyed the dollar or the war destroyed your savings, but the archaeology reveals the truth. The dollar was destroyed by 50 years of overprinting, and the war is simply the controlled demolition of a broken system.
As we move deeper into the archaeology of this conflict, we see the final layer, the death of the paper standard. For our entire lives, we have lived in a world where wealth was a number on a screen. We believed that as long as the Dow Jones went up, we were safe. But a war economy doesn't care about numbers on a screen. It cares about hard assets. It cares about the black locust timber, the sassafras nutticin, and the Jerusalem artichoke food source we have discussed in this series. In a world where the US dollar is no longer the global gas card, the only things that will have value are the things you can touch, taste, and trade. We are moving from an era of financialization back to an era of tangibility. This is the intellectual lament of our generation. We spent our youth building a world of service economies and digital assets, only to find that in the twilight of our lives, the old world rules have returned with a vengeance. The 1974 pact was a temporary miracle that lasted half a century. It gave us a golden age of cheap energy and easy credit. But that miracle was bought with the sovereignty of our future. We traded our factories for a military petroleum complex, and now, as that complex enters its final, violent stage, the bill is finally coming due. A war in the Middle East isn't a foreign problem, it is a living room problem. It is a savings account problem. It is the end of the American fiat dream.
So, as economic archaeologists standing in the shadow of a global conflict in 2026, what is our golden insight? How do we protect our legacy when the global gas card is being revoked? First, we must exit the paper simulation. In a world where war destroys the dollar, your greatest risk is counterparty risk. If your wealth depends on a bank's ability to pay you in a devaluing currency, you are vulnerable. You must move a portion of your paper wealth into physical sovereignty. This means physical gold, the only money that has survived every war in human history. It means productive land. It means the immortal assets that don't require a global banking system to function. Second, think in calories and gallons, not dollars. Stop measuring your wealth by the balance in your account. Measure it by your access to essentials. A full pantry, a source of clean water, and a community of neighbors, the front porch we discussed, are worth more in a war economy than $1 million in a frozen brokerage account. Reclaiming your self-sufficiency is the ultimate wealth preservation strategy. Third, recognize the distraction. The headlines will try to pull you into the emotion of war. They will want you to pick a side, to be angry, and to be afraid. Refuse. Use your golden age wisdom to see the archaeology of the move. Understand that the chaos in the Middle East is the visual manifestation of a financial reset. Stay calm, stay informed, and stay tangible. The petrodollar of 1974 is a ghost. The world of infinite debt and cheap imports is closing its doors. We cannot stop the tides of history, and we cannot prevent the controlled demolition of the old system. But we can refuse to be buried in the rubble. We can remember that real wealth is not a gift from a central bank. It is the result of our stewardship of the earth and our loyalty to our community. We can stop being consumers of fiat and start being stewards of the golden age. Ownership isn't just about the dollar in your wallet. It's about the sovereignty of your future. Before we go, I want to ask you, do you remember the 1973 oil lines? And do you feel that same sense of unease today when you look at the headlines? Share your thoughts in the comments below. Let's help each other navigate the coming storm with insight and dignity. Thank you for watching the Golden Age Insight.